About the World Food Prize is because of my involvement this is my third year being a driver. And after the first year I went home and I got a book out of the library and started reading about Norman Borlaug, who is somebody who's done a lot of great things in the world, but hardly any Iowans seem to know about, or at least I wasn't taught about in school. So anyway, I guess the first thing I'd ask is, have any of you been to the World Food Prize building down in Des Moines? Nobody. Okay. Well, someday, and I'd recommend at Christmas, that you go visit the World Food Prize building. It's a beautiful building. It used to be the old public library in Des Moines, where people my age went to check out books years ago. And they've totally redone it, and it's a magnificent facility. And so that would be maybe the first place that you might start. There's a lot of history, and there's a tour that you could take. Maybe you could get Mr. McQuaid to take you someday to get out of school. There is, on the first floor is a kind of a whole bunch of displays that talks about various things about food, not just only production, but food insecurity. Oh gosh, just a lot of things. You guys being from a smaller, more rural area probably know a lot more about these issues, or a lot more about production than I do. My background, I grew up in Fort Dodge, but I lived in town, but I had cousins who lived on a farm, so at least I know that much. But anyway, so Norman Borlaug grew up here in Iowa. I believe it was in northeast Iowa, and he went to the University of Minnesota on a wrestling scholarship, and he got interested. He apparently was with a farm background, was very interested in agriculture, and he got interested in how to adapt some of the things that we're familiar with, so that they can grow all over the world. It could grow all over the world. So my recollection is that he next went to a facility, or at least his primary research facility was in Mexico, and he spent a lot of his time in Mexico. And from that, he started what's known as the Green Revolution. And again, I'm hoping you guys will jump in, but the Green Revolution was when they did start taking the various kinds of products that we're used to, corn, wheat in particular, and figuring out how it will work, how it can grow in soils other than like the wonderful soil that we have here in Iowa. And so they first started in Mexico, and after they kind of figured out how to grow wheat in Mexico that would actually thrive, then he was next asked to go to help. I believe it was in India. Is that correct? And then the next place was in Africa, where he kind of expended his efforts, and he started gathering a whole community of people who would take various products like, say, rice, and those people were working in maybe started out in an institute in the Philippines, and then moved what they learned to maybe their home country, which might have been Vietnam, and so it kind of has expanded to where they're trying to figure out how to tackle the world's problem. I think a lot of this started because of a famine in Bangladesh, and so, but that's not the only place that people don't have enough to eat. We're very lucky here in the United States. We, relatively speaking, have a lot to eat, and so they started to figure out how to grow products in various kinds of soils, in some cases in water. And so then fast forward a little bit, somewhere in the 1980s, I believe it was, Dr. Borlaug won the Nobel Peace Prize. And he didn't want that money for just his own organization. He wanted to do something about food insecurity all over the world. So he started the World Food Prize. And it started elsewhere, I think like Kellogg's or General Mills was his original sponsor. And then after a couple of years, they backed out of being sponsors. So there was a gentleman named John Ruan in Des Moines who had a big trucking industry, and he had over 20 years or so, he had built this thing up to be mammoth, and he had a lot of money. And so somebody suggested that he get involved. So John Ruan got involved, and from that was kind of the start of the World Food Prize in Des Moines, and it kind of took off from there. It's gotten, every year it's become a bigger and bigger and bigger event. First thing they did was get this building, or the first thing they did was hire a gentleman named Ambassador Quinn, And he had been an ambassador to Cambodia, so he had seen a lot of this stuff firsthand. And so first they got him on board, then they got the building, and every year they were continuing to award this prize, and the prize itself is for people who are being innovative in how to feed the world. And it can be in a lot of, it can be a lot of different spectrums that they look at. This year's awardees have to do with people who have, I'm drawing a blank. I gotta think of it, Shirley. I'll come back to that. But there have been people from various endeavors that have been awarded the prize. The first one, I believe, was from India, and I believe his was also because of adapting wheat to India. And this year's the focus is on nutrients, I believe, that they're trying to figure out how to make more products or get products that already exist into to have more nutrients, so like vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, something like that. And so there are 4 honorees this year, which is, they usually have maybe 1 or 2, there are 4, because 4 made major contributions to that particular area of getting some products more nutrient rich. Let's see. I guess that's my spiel on what I can remember from the World Food Prize. There's a lot to know. I would recommend you learn about Norman Borlaug, because he's actually, last year, they replayed in the U.S. Capitol. They allow you to have 2 statues of important people from your state in the U.S. Capitol. And last year they replaced one who was kind of an obscure politician from the 1800s with Norman Borlaug. So that's how important he is. So if you go visit the U.S. Capitol, you'll also see the statue. So any questions before I take you on to the main speaker who really knows her stuff? But I would encourage you to go down and see the building. I spent some time down in the basement because there's a lot to learn down there. There are also some activities that are geared right to you guys that they bring, I think it's students in to learn about hunger insecurity and the new packaged meals. So maybe next year, Mr. McQuaid can take his class for that. There's a whole lot of stuff going on that there's scholarships if you want to get into the scientific part of it. You can be interns down there. My son was an intern, which is how I became involved with the World Food Prize. The event goes on 5-6 days. There's just all sorts of activities in Des Moines right now. So any chance you get to push your teachers to get you involved, I recommend it. Anybody?
Think of like what Norman Borlaug and his work, almost like the precursors to modern day hybrids that we have that you hear a lot about. You hear a lot about like Wiffles hybrid if you're listening to Iowa State play basketball or football on the radio, things like that. You see a lot of Pioneer commercials. You see Monsanto here in town, Pioneers, all those different type of ag companies as well. So this is kind of the precursor of these hybrids that we now have. He cross-pollinated different breeds of wheat specifically to make sure that they could grow in places that had maybe not the best environment for the wheat to be grown. All right?
All right,
Thank you very much.
Good morning or hi. You bear me with my English. I hope I will try to be audible enough. As they introduced me, I'm Betty Kawonga. You're free with Betty alone, from a country called Malawi. I don't know if anyone in here has ever heard of that country before. If not, we are going to learn about it today. So Malawi is a country in Africa. Maybe you've heard of Africa, please. Okay, yeah. So here is a map of Africa, and Malawi is a very tiny country right here. That's where Malawi is. So if you look at this top, going all the way down here, that's where Malawi is. It's a country of about 16 million people. So it's highly populated. And what she was talking about, food insecurity, most of the countries around Malawi, we suffer a lot from food insecurity. So out of the 16 million people that live there, including myself, almost over 2 million people live on less than $1 a day. And most of those, they just have probably one meal for a day to live by. And in most cases, the ones that suffer a lot are the children. They're the ones that suffer a lot from malnutrition because of lack of a good diet. Most of the diet in Malawi is from corn. When I was moving around, coming over here, I saw a lot of corn around. So most of the people in Malawi, our diet is based on corn and fish and different types of pulses like beans. And sometimes people have a chance to eat from goat meat. So pretty much that's about Malawi. Another interesting fact about Malawi is that it is an agro-based economy, meaning we heavily depend on agriculture for the source of our forex. So most of the things that we produce for sale to get forex, more especially like US dollar that will help us trade with different countries around us, we depend on agriculture. And that agriculture mostly is crops as well as livestock. For me today, I will be talking a little bit about livestock. Back at home in Malawi, I'm a lecturer at one of the public universities. So I like interacting with the youth, interacting with the young, because whenever I get into a classroom, I see a lot of potential, which is the same thing that I see here. There's a lot of potential that is sitting here. A lot of undiscovered innovations that will go a long way in changing our world, just like Dr. Norman Boland did. For me to stand here is a testimony to what Dr. Norman Boland did long time ago. What he did is why I am in this room today. In 2013, that's exactly when I got to know about World Food Prize. They had released a call for proposals from different countries in Africa. So they challenged us to develop innovations that are going to help with the hunger issues in our countries. So for me, I am a dairy scientist. Dairy, as in D-A-I-R-Y, dairy. Do you have a lot of dairy in Iowa? You have a lot of dairy? What type of breeds do you keep? Breeds of cows. What type of breeds do you raise in the dairy farms in Iowa? Do you know? What colors do most of the animals? Black and white. So what are those? What breed is that? Huh? What breed is it? No, that's for that. There's no wrong answer. We all learning. What breed is that? Okay, so most of those will be Holstein dairy cows, the black and white ones. And there are other cool ones that are brownish, they will be the Jerseys. So likewise in Malawi, we keep Holsteins and Jerseys. Those are not domiciled to our country, but they were imported into our country by Canadians, and some of them also came all the way from here in America. Maybe you have ever heard of Heifer International. Maybe you've heard of it. It's also a non-profit organization that works in Malawi, and we get a lot of those animals into our country. So as a dairy scientist, I was challenged to do something for our country. Why I chose dairy is because there are a lot of youths in our country that are not employed. Almost 60% of the youths in our country are not employed. Most of them just sit around without anything to do. And maybe the question would be, why would it be so? The reason is most of them either do not have skills to be employed, or others, they have the skills, but there are no jobs. So we wanted to use dairy as a model to help solve the issues of unemployment, at the same time have spillovers from there that will help improve food security in their communities. As I've said, Malawi is an agro-based economy. So we called it Malawi Young Dairy Entrepreneurs Project, and we proposed it to World Food Prize. And in 2014, I was privileged to be amongst the 4 that won that prize. It's a prize of but exactly $150,000 to invest in these youths that are just laying down in their communities because of lack of employment. So we intend to use dairy as a model to help solve the issues that are critical in our country. And our concept is called a business incubation center. So we want these youths to come together in groups of 20 to 30 and train them in the skills, for those that do not have the skills, in the skills that we know, using dairy. So they will learn skills in how to produce the milk. Others will have skills on how to produce the feed, so that they have, looking at the whole value chain of the dairy. So others will produce the milk, others will produce the feed, others will be trained to be technicians. So for a dairy cow to have a calf every year, we need technicians that will inseminate these cows with hybrid semen, which usually we import it from the US. So we need someone to be trained in doing that. And these youths that are within our community, this resource that is just lying there, they will be trained in this. And then there will be others that will be trained in marketing, how to market this. You people today, you young people, you know a lot about the internet, you know about e-tools, and similarly, even in our country, because of the globalization, we have a lot of young people that know a little bit about what is happening around the world, how to use the internet, how to use the computer. So we want to tap into what is already existing and use that to market their products. So we're looking at the whole value chain in the dairy sector involving these young people. So we call them business incubation centers. We'll find these groups initially, and these groups will be paired with entrepreneurs, people that are working in these difficult environments in our country, but they're making a difference. So we'll pair them with these entrepreneurs who will mentor them for a period of 1 year. And during that period, they will be trained in how to run the business. Whilst as dairy scientists, we'll train them on how to produce good quality milk, how to sell that milk, how to make profit, and they will be also trained on how to write proposals. Just like we wrote a proposal and we won, we also want to help these young people to develop these projects by themselves, earn a bit of money from the local organizations that are willing to fund such initiatives, but also even bid for international funds so that they can generate resources to run these community-based organizations. At the same time, we also want, after a period of 1 year, once they are trained, once they have these skills, once they are learning this business, not just as a social goal, but also as an income generating activity, so a social enterprise, so to say, we want them to also pass on the skills that they have learned to another group. Our vision is that once we train this group of 20, they can identify another group within their locality of another 20 or 30 young people and train them as mentees. So these skills that they have got, they will have to also pass on to the next group. In such a way, in 5 or 10, 15 years, we are looking at having more groups within this community, whilst we go and help another community. So we'll provide with the funds that we got a startup fund, which will be a revolving fund. They will get this money not just as a donation, they will get it as a soft loan. They will pay a little bit of interest, maybe 1 to 2%, but that money will not go outside of their community. It will still revolve around the same community. half of the money that we got, we are going to invest it in an endowment trust. The reason is we want that money to grow and continue funding more groups. Because for the dairy industry, you can't get results within 1 year. We have to wait maybe 2 or 3 years to really establish these groups. So for that to continue, we would love to tap into this endowment trust where we will have interest and the money will be fed back into these upstart businesses. So that's the model that we have taken with this, it's called a 40 Chances Fellowship that we won. Other fellows are from, I forgot to say that, Uganda, Liberia, as well as Sierra Leone. I know they would have loved to be here with us this morning, but some of them are engaged, some of them already started the work and they failed to come. So they said, you can go interact with the youth, encourage them that we should not wait until we are old. I know during our time when you are growing, we were used to be told, you are leaders of the future. But when does the future come? Today, the message is, you are leaders of today. We take up this challenge today because the challenge is so huge and enormous. In us lays a potential that has not been discovered in this world. Those dreams that we have, if we can hold our hands together, like our concept is that no one can go further alone. If you want to go further, then you have to hold hands and go together. As they say that together, everyone of us will achieve more. And that's the concept that we want to take. That as we hold hands together, we are going to achieve a lot, just as it moves from one mentor to a mentee to another mentee. So over the years, we hope to achieve more, rather than just one individual running with the challenge on themselves. Maybe before I continue, if there are any questions or clarifications, I can take.
So what she was talking about with the investments, they're going to use half the money to start these business incubation centers right now. And then the other half is going to be kind of invested, right? And they're going to allow that money to grow, she said. So they're going to invest that money and hopefully make more money off of that, kind of create like a special fund, an endowment, or a trust, so that money grows so they can keep using that money for an extended period of time instead of just spending all of it right away. Does that make sense?
We have a lot of land here, you know, it's in agriculture. Is land an issue in terms of trying to, I don't know how much land supports how many cows?
Yeah, we have, as I said, Malawi is very small and land is a big issue. That's another challenge that we have. Most of, as I said, that over 75% of our population live in the rural areas, and their land size for each of the households would be probably close to 3. Yeah, we have, as I said, Malawi is very small and land is a big issue. That's another challenge that we have. Most of, as I said, that over 75% of our population live in the rural areas, and their land size for each of the households would be probably close to 3. 1 hectare would be, you know, in acres, it would be maybe 2.5 or 3 acres for each household. That's how much land they have. And when you talk about dairy, what they have found out in Africa is that it pairs very well with landless people, because you can have other people grow the feed, like those that have ample land, those that are into crop production, and for those that are doing dairy production, they will buy from those that are growing and just have a small piece of land where they are raising this cow. And our system is most of, we call it zero grazing, so most of the animals are in semi-confinement, but they have free movement within their housing structure. So they are able to move and feed and lay down. And so we like to provide a comfortable environment looking at welfare issues. Any questions or just interest, or you want to know more about Africa or Malawi? Yes?
How many people are each household?
How many people?
Yeah.
Our households are very big. I think at national level we have almost an average of 6 people, 6 to 7 people in each household. So you're looking at probably 5 kids on average. Yeah, like in my family, we are 7. I shouldn't say we are 7. But the numbers are going down. Now people are realizing that we cannot all fit in that tiny country. We have to do something. And the numbers are going down. We're seeing more and more people having 3, 2, but there is nothing like what is there in China, where I say, okay, we have 1 kid. But if we don't do anything, I can see our government going that way. Yes.
How long have you lived in the U.S.?
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
I said I'm a lecturer at the University in Malawi, but
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
but no, but you're right. I wanted to say also that I'm like dual. I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of Kentucky, where I've been for the past 2 years. I just left end of July to go back home and work with the smallholder farmers that I'm talking about. I'm being funded by the U.S. government, so to say, but there is a bureau called United States, they call it USA, United States International Development Fund, something like that. But it's a US-led development arm in Africa and some parts of Asia. And they are funding institutions in Africa. They are helping institutions in Africa to train their staff. So I was one of the beneficiaries. I came here in 2014, and I just returned in July after finishing part of my studies in the US. Now I'm back home. I'll just come maybe for graduation.
Is this the organization you're talking about right here? U.S. Agency for International Development?
You said,
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
exactly.
So you guys have an assignment on that tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's the organization. It's linked to the U.S. Embassy in our country, and they do a lot of agriculture, they do a lot of health, food, nutrition support, and we did appreciate what we do in our country. But for this particular program, they thought of bringing us over here, have experiences here, train here, and then go back and help develop our country as well. Yeah. Any more questions or just comments?
What do you think is the reason, or what is the reason for the underemployment or unemployment of so many people? Is it lack of education?
Yeah, I would say it's double-faced. So part of it would be we have high illiteracy levels in our country. So more especially amongst girls. Yeah, so we have, which could be also partly due to our culture, where people tend to send boys to school. I don't know here in the US, but I don't think, because like at Kentucky, I saw a lot of, I was TAing in a certain class, and most of them were girls. And I was like, wow, this is cool. But back home, the sciences, most of them will be boys. And the girls maybe just go up to high school, most of them, and they drop off. And some of it could be just lack of encouragement. And that's why, like you said, also helps in issues of gender, human rights, and they also want to train us so that we can become role models to the girls. And for like this project that I'm doing, I also go into secondary schools, which are like high schools, and I have special talks with the girls, encouraging them that anyone can do science, because most of them are just, you know, when they hear of mathematics, when they hear of physical science, chemistry, they just freeze, like, I can't do that, but I try to challenge them that if I've done it, you can do it. Yeah, the sky, as they say, the sky is the limit, so I try to do that as much as I can.
And I'm gonna add the comment, you guys probably don't believe this, but in the 50s and 60s in Iowa, girls were also not encouraged to go into science and math. So we're not that far removed from where you were.
Still, even now, there's predominantly more men in those types of fields than women, but it is getting better. So there's a little bit of gender inequality in regards to career paths and things like that as well, still here in the United States.
Yes, so on the other side, for the other unemployment issue would be issues of maybe the growth in our economy. So in most cases, the biggest employer is the government. And now with all the social issues, as I highlighted at the beginning, we have probably 57% now, this year, they were calculating that 57% are kids under the age of 15. So you can see the social burden that is on the government, and of late they are not employing a lot of people. So we are trying to encourage the youth to be creators of jobs. Like daily, we know it engages you throughout the year. So if they can have that job and also employ other people, other young people, that will help ease the burden for the government as well.
What specifically is the government trying to do or doing to help with these job issues?
Currently, they have opened what they call community technical colleges. So these technical colleges are mostly into like civil engineering, most of them, and some of them would be like in construction.
Okay.
So the hands-on type, like mechanics, the hands-on type,
Okay.
so that these can really start small businesses within their communities,
Okay.
rather than everyone hoping the government will employ me. So they are really encouraging the self-employment type of training at the moment. Yeah. We don't have a lot of private sector driven. Our economy is not private sector driven like the US is. Like there are big organizations, entities, and private sector that drive this economy. All back home is like the government is the main thing, and they are trying to release their hand of a lot of enterprises and businesses. Any more questions? No?
Questions about what she's doing? Questions about Malawi in general?
Yes.
So Malawi, how does that compare the issues with famine to the rest of sub-Saharan Africa? Is it worse, or is it? Do you say like how would it compare? Is it like equal to like the surrounding areas? Is just the Malawi issues are better in surrounding countries?
I have to be careful how I say it. I would say the sub-Saharan Africa is a bit diverse, because if you go down here, this is South Africa. It's like the US of America, I should say, the United States of the America as a continent. So here you have a lot of, here it's more debates, actually a developed, more to say a developed country. So you have a lot of people trekking to South Africa. So that would be a food secure country, though it's in the south, in sub-Saharan Africa. Whilst if you go to, and as well as Namibia, it's also food secure. Botswana, they have got a lot of diamonds, minerals, even the same with South Africa, platinum, a lot of diamonds, Namibia the same. These are more food secure. But when you go to countries like Zimbabwe, Mozambique is because of, they have had like over 40 years civil war, and that has contributed a lot to food insecurity in that region, and most of the people here are being kept in Malawi, like as refugees. Zambia as well would be relatively better than Malawi. They have copper, they have a lot of mines there. Tanzania, same thing. They've got a lot of minerals like Tanzanite. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tanzanite. Yeah, they have a lot of layer minerals there. West Malawi is a bit unique in the sense that we don't have minerals. What we have really that maybe we have not tapped into is the human capital. We have a lot of people, as I said, 60 million, and over half of that are youths. So this is like a giant that is just laying flat there and not being utilized. That's why the concept that we came up with. If you go a little bit up here in the middle, that's where there's a lot of issues just because of wars. Southern part is a bit, I should say, safer except Mozambique. But when you just move above Tanzania, here, there's a lot of war. So though they have that capacity to feed themselves because they have got minerals, oil, but because there's a lot of fighting in there, most of the people here, they trek down to the southern part, including Malawi. We have a lot of refugees that we keep. And that has also contributed a lot to the pressures that we normally have in that region.
So Malawi doesn't really have a lot of issues with civil, like any wars right now. It's generally stable, peaceful.
Malawi is, we got out, most of these countries down here were colonies of Britain. We were under British, except Mozambique was under Portuguese. But all these countries here, including Nigeria here, Kenya up here, we were all under the British. So most of us got independent like 50 years ago. And since then, countries like Malawi, Zambia, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe have never been, except Zimbabwe, I think they got their independence a bit late in the 1980s. But most of these other countries, we got our independence in the early 60s. So over 50 years of independence, and we've never had any civil war. And we just feel like fortunate, except that we have all these food insecurity issues. Yeah, because nowadays the issues have even worsened because we are now having a lot of climate change issues, a lot of droughts. Maybe you've heard of El Nino.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of most of these areas around here, they are going towards desertification, so to say. So we have a lot of droughts, and during the years that we have rains, we have too much rains. So a lot of flooding, and so it's like something that circles around. Okay. Thank you.